Hogwarts Legacy was one of the biggest releases of 2023. It was the highest selling game on Steam weeks before its launch, it broke records on Twitch, and it claimed the award for the best selling game of the year. Warner Bros. Games have since kept us in the dark about official confirmation for a DLC or a sequel. There have been many exciting leaks that suggest another Hogwarts Legacy game is in the works. In this video, I'm going to discuss these leaks and go over the must-have features that Avalanche need to include in Hogwarts Legacy 2, so let's get started. Before diving into what features need to be in the next game, how do we know that another game is even in development? Well, there are a few important reasons. The most obvious evidence comes from a couple of recent job listings from Avalanche Software, studio behind Hogwarts Legacy, which strongly implied another game is being developed. One of these ads saw Avalanche look for 2 software engineers for work on an unannounced AAA console title at their studio in Salt Lake City, exactly where Hogwarts Legacy was developed. Another listing saw them advertise for an executive producer in Salt Lake City who they wanted to direct development of games based on one of our most successful entertainment franchises. Most successful entertainment franchises from Warner Bros. Has got to mean Harry Potter, so I think we can safely assume again this is referring to Hogwarts Legacy, especially as it's in the same location where the game was developed. There were a few other bits and pieces of information, but these two were definitely the most important. It's super exciting that we will be getting another game similar to Hogwarts Legacy, but what type of game can we expect? Well, the ad for the producer gets even more interesting. It states that the candidate should have experience with internal and external AAA development processes, MMO development and operations, and open world RPG game experience. So if this producer will be working on the Hogwarts Legacy sequel, then we can expect it to have MMO and RPG elements. There's also been some interesting news from the Rolling Library, who said over on Twitter that there's been some work by Warner Bros. On a horror video game based in the Wizarding world. This type of game is a little surprising, but it could be pulled off given how well Avalanche executed the darker elements of Hogwarts Legacy. One thing is for sure though, it seems that there's a ton of interest over at Warner Bros. In the next Wizarding World game, whether it's a direct sequel or something completely new. No matter what type of game the next installment will be, let's talk about some features that I think could definitely be improved on to ensure that the next game is an even better gaming experience. Firstly, let's talk about the morality system. It's quite obvious that this is missing from Hogwarts Legacy and does somewhat take away from the experience at times. At the moment, you can cast the unforgivable curses without much more than a glance from passers-by. Adding consequences to these types of actions could greatly enhance the RPG aspect of the next game. For example, having auras show up after casting unforgivable curses to challenge the player would be an excellent addition. Dementors could also be implemented in this way, but more on this later in the video. Even more responsive features like just having NPCs run away when we cast spells on non-hostile enemies near to them would make the game feel more realistic and create a more immersive Wizarding World experience. I hope that Avalanche takes this on board and just adds more weight to the decisions we make when casting spells and also which dialogue options we choose. Unforgivable curses should feel super important when we see them being used, just like in the films. When we see Voldemort use Avada Kedavra on Cedric, it is a really emotional moment that shocks us. I'm not expecting such a reaction whenever an unforgivable curse is used in Hogwarts Legacy, but a little something that makes it a bit less underwhelming is a feature I'd love to see going forward. Now, probably the most talked about feature that fans want to see in the next game is Quidditch. The wizarding sport was absent from Hogwarts Legacy, and I know many people, myself included, were a little sad about this. Quidditch is such a massive part of Harry Potter lore and represents such a fun opportunity for players. It would really help to complete that Hogwarts student experience. Sadly though, it's not looking likely that a full Quidditch feature will be present in the next game. As we know, a dedicated Quidditch game, Harry Potter Quidditch Champions, is currently in development and will be releasing on PC and console in the not so distant future. I think it would also be quite difficult to add this feature to some types of genre that have been rumoured for Hogwarts Legacy 2. For example, it could be hard to add it to a horror game. However, not all hope is lost. Even if a full-scale Quidditch feature containing leagues and complex mechanics will not be in the next game, I think a simplified version is entirely possible. I was thinking along the lines of how CD Projekt Red implemented the card game Gwent to The Witcher 3. This was a simplified version of the card game that eventually got its own independent release. The next Hogwarts Legacy game could do something similar. If, as has been rumoured, that the next game is an MMO, then this would make it even easier to include Quidditch, as the multiplayer element will already be in the game. I would even be happy if we just had the option to see simulated games that we could be a part of. Either way, this is a fun feature that I really hope we can see come to life. Another feature that I would love to see in the next Hogwarts Legacy game is the addition of Dementors and Patronuses. One of the best things about Hogwarts Legacy was being able to explore some familiar areas of the Wizarding World. If you chose Hufflepuff, then you would have briefly seen Azkaban as part of a specific quest. This was so much fun, but I would love to see this expanded in the next game. Azkaban could play a more significant role and even have Dementors chase after us when we overuse unforgivable curses. Being able to develop and cast our own Patronus could also play into this and add to the immersion even more. We could even take an in-game quiz similar to the sorting ceremony to decide our Patronus. Customising our characters with elements essential to the Harry Potter lore is something that many Harry Potter fans loved about Hogwarts Legacy, so Avalanche investing more into this would definitely be a positive thing. The good news is, Avalanche can invest more time in developing these RPG elements and additional features, as Hogwarts Legacy 2 can use a lot of the assets already made in the first game. They've already built Hogsmeade and Hogwarts Castle and a few other locations, so this will hopefully give them more time to make the changes that we've talked about so far. Talking about Expecto Patronum, there's a bunch more spells I would love to experience in the next game. One of my favourite spells in the movies was Pia Totem Locomotor, a charm used to animate inanimate objects. We see this most famously used by Professor McGonagall in the Battle of Hogwarts. This charm could be added to help players make use of the many statues around the castle, but also be in dungeons and other locations where there would be objects to animate. Whatever the next map or setting will be, this spell would definitely be a fun addition. Another spell I would love to see is Confundo, a spell that temporarily confuses the target. I could see this working really well in situations where you want to take a stealthy approach or just have a bit of fun. Now, I think a big missed opportunity in Hogwarts Legacy was water-based spells such as Agumenti and Orb of Water. There is so much water in the map, and at the moment it doesn't really do much. Adding dungeons or caves only accessible underwater with water-based puzzles and spells could be a pretty cool addition. I'm sure you guys have spells you would like to see in the next game, so let me know in the comments down below, as I would love to see your ideas. Despite how much I love Hogwarts Legacy, it does have one fatal flaw that stops it from being on the same level as other open world RPGs. The big issue is NPCs. Hogwarts Legacy has a lot of issues with NPCs that really took away from the game's immersion. The worst for me was when you walked past a group of students in Hogwarts, their mouths would be moving but they weren't actually saying anything, and this happened so many times. There needed to be more students in Hogwarts that actually had some kind of dialogue. As amazing as Hogwarts was to explore, at times it could feel so empty, so I think adding in a couple more lively NPCs here and there would definitely help. I also think it would be good for Avalanche to expand their pool of player models of NPCs, as I often found many of the same NPCs duplicated next to each other, and I did encounter a lot of bugs with students as well. If the next game is going to be more of a multiplayer game or MMO, then this still applies, as I don't want the game to be reliant on our interactions with other in real life players. Either way, I hope the next game can take some inspiration from games like The Witcher 3 that have amazing NPCs. Make sure you let me know in the comments below what you would like to see in the next Hogwarts Legacy game. If you haven't already, please do hit that subscribe button for more RPG gaming news, and give the video a like if you did enjoy, as it does help me out more than you know. As always, thank you so much for watching. See you next time.